And welcome back to the Vita Ferm Angus Hour here on RFD-TV. Heading up to the top of the hour here, we want to take your telephone calls. Before we get to Daniel, you're up first from Louisiana. We want to finish with Sarah because we've talked a lot about the age, source verification. Ron and Bob have discussed how profitable it can be. So Sarah, the question that viewers would have, we want to make sure we answer is, okay, how do I get started? How do I sign up and get ready to put my herd into this age and verification program? How would they do that?
The one thing producers need to realize, Mark, is that there's a lot of opportunity here and it's not that hard to get started. Good. Most of the producers are already keeping the records that would be required. If you know what calves were born on your operation and you have a record of at least the first calf born, which is the minimum requirement for a program, you're already halfway to getting them enrolled. All the programs are a little bit unique, but with Angus Source and Gateway specifically, we work one-on-one with each producer to provide the training and take them through all of the steps to get everything documented. And then the nice thing with most of these programs, and especially with ours, is they get identified with a program compliant ear tag. We issue a verification certificate, and that verification remains intact, and those calves can move through the entire production chain, through Ron's feed yard, onto the packer, and then eventually to the export markets with the producer not having to do any more.
And that stamp, I think maybe it was you that talked about that.
Absolutely.
That stamp, Bob, means everything when you're talking about the world market especially.
Yeah, it's the global market. That enables us to go to the global market. It's critical.
That's the stamp. Go ahead.
Our window sticker, I was going to say, is an ear tag and a verification certificate, and that documents that information and opens those doors.
Angus.org would be a great place to go to learn more about how they get started.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, Daniel, thank you for holding through all of that. We're glad you did, and we're glad you called. So you're now up from the great state of Louisiana. We're glad you're with us.
Yes, sir. If you do the Angus Source, where do you need to sell them to get the $1.08 per hundredweight more? Where do you need to sell them at?
Well, Daniel, that's a good question. You're open to market your calves anywhere. We actually offer some marketing support through the Angus Source program. We can allow you to customize your verification certificate, document other production, health, management practices, and then we can advertise them online. We've got over 600 order buyers and feed yards that sign up to get that weekly email that will say whether your calves are selling direct from the ranch, through your local auction market, or on a video. The data that I was citing was actually an analysis of calves that sold last fall on a video market, but we have data from across the country that would show that there's value that you can capture. What I would encourage you to do is, if you sell through a traditional auction market, to talk to the auctioneer or whoever's running that barn and make sure that they're familiar with the program and that they can announce from the block that your calves are enrolled in an agent source verification program.
I'm sure there are a lot of viewers on RFD-TV that work through the superior livestock auction markets, and they say, Sarah, you're exactly right, and they know exactly what you're talking about step for step. So, you know, actually RFD-TV is aware with the people that are in those auctions how important that is. But a great question to start out here. So we appreciate that. Let's go to Mitch from Louisiana, staying in Louisiana. Mitch, thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Your question.
Why do you have to have papers on your bulls to sell them on the Angus deal?
That's a good question, Mitch. And how the Angus Source program is written is there's 3 things that we verify. We talked about the source and age. But in order for us to verify that cattle are a minimum of 50% Angus genetics, then we have to have those cattle registered and documented as purebreds in American Angus, so that when we know the sires are Angus, we know that there's at least 50% Angus genetics in those calves, and we can guarantee that to potential buyers.
And Bob, do you and Ron, do you get that sort of question as well when they come to you and want to know, well, if I do this with you, how do I know I'm going to get the kind of price that you say I might be getting when I sell them?
Oh, absolutely, all the time. And just like Sarah said, you have to let people know that your cattle are agent source verified. You have to link up with people that are looking for agent source verified cattle. When you go to an order buyer, explain to them what your cattle are, and know that those cattle are worth a premium in the export markets. I mean, that's the producer's responsibility, because he's marketing his cattle. You have to explain what you've done. Just like I said on the data, you have to explain that these are the world-class cattle, and people will buy them.
Very good. You find that to be true out in Oregon, Washington?
Yes, we're looking for age-verified cattle every day because they're worth more money to us when we sell them to
and Sarah,
the packer.
Not to belabor the thought, but You said a lot of our viewers out there, if they're not already part of the age and source verification, are doing a lot of the work anyway. They have the paperwork from the date of birth and all sort of things, so they're not that far away from taking advantage of what we're talking about here.
They're one step away, and it's as simple as going online and downloading the information, or giving us a call and letting us help you through the process.
Absolutely.
It's not that hard, and they might as well capitalize on that information that they have.
All right, we understand telephone lines are loaded up. Let's go back to the telephone lines, and let's go back to Wisconsin. Rod, thank you for holding, and now your question.
Yes, I got Simmental cows and some Angus cows also, and I run registered Angus bull or a registered Simmental bull on, split them up. But I do keep calving records, and I know who's out of who and who's born when. Is there a program, and I understand, some of my cows are Angus, bred to a Simmental bull, but they don't have papers. But when I haul them to the auction market, I take the whole work. I don't separate them out. Is there a program where you can do a percentage Angus source, or do they have to be? If I got a whole load, do I have to separate my loads out? That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, Rod, through our programs, Angus Source and Gateway, you would have the opportunity, if the records were in line, to Angus source those calves that qualified, those that we knew documented genetics, they were out of a registered Angus bull. And then those other calves that are out of your Simmental bulls could be verified through Gateway. And then the entire load would be age and source verified, whether it was through the Angus Source program or the Gateway program, and you could easily market those calves together.
All right, and again, same sort of thing that you probably run into that a little bit, I would imagine, with the number of cattle you work with out there, Ron, that people want to make sure that and you want to make sure as well when you get those cattle where they came from.
Yes, and I mean, we just make sure they're through a process verified program, which Angus Source is.
Right.
And
we coming up on like only 5 minutes to go before we have to say goodnight, so let's try to get a few more calls in here. Levi from New Mexico. I don't know if we've had a New Mexico call for quite some time, so Levi, thanks for calling. Your question.
Yeah, well, I had a similar question like the fellow had before. I've got 100 head of mother cows, and they're all Brangus. I mean, they come off of Brangus bulls and running Brangus registered bulls on them. So I was wondering how I'd get them aged and verified on that. I've got the records on them. I mean, I date of birth every calf that's born, and it's date of birth right on the year tag that I sit on him.
All right.
It sounds like, Levi, based on the records you're saying that you have, that you would have no problem qualifying for a source and age verification program, and there are a lot of good ones out there. Through American Angus, it would be the Gateway program that your calves would fall into, and we could verify the source and age, and then we can document the genetics on your calves that they're out of Brangus cows and Brangus bulls, but we won't be able to verify it because Angus genetics are the only genetics that we do verify through Angus Source. But Gateway would be a program that you could easily utilize to do source and age.
Absolutely. All right, that was our last call. Thank you, all the callers, helping a lot of other viewers asking the same questions. And again, we'll be giving the websites here at the end of the program. We've come to that time where we want to make sure you have some time for closing thoughts. And Ron Rowan, great to have you with us all the way from Oregon. And closing thoughts for viewers you want to leave with them.
You know, this whole age verification thing is really a value proposition for our industry. It adds value to us because then we can ship our product to Japan, and it's what Japan has requested, and they're willing to pay a premium. So that money is additional money that we can get into the beef industry, and it all starts with that producer. So it goes all the way from the producer to the feedlot to the packer, and so I suggest anybody that can get started because we can add value to the industry.
Very good. Good to have you here again. Thanks. Come back and see us.
Thank you.
Bob Sand, founder of the Beef Connection. Great to have you with us. Your closing thoughts.
You know, as we went through the agent source verification process here, we talked about the need for data, and I'd say for the industry that we need to have data on every aspect of our cattle to effectively produce cattle, to manage cattle, and to market cattle. We need to have that information. I would employ or ask anyone to work diligently towards that. Agent source is the first step. Next step is retrieving data and finding out how my cattle perform in a feed yard. The third part is bringing that data back and managing my herd better. Because in the future, I'm sure we're going to see higher input costs. And for people like Ron, he's going to look at cattle that have data on them. That's going to be, our customers are going to demand that, both domestically and worldwide. So I'd say get in the habit of getting data.
All right. Good to have you with us. And Sarah, great information from you, American Angus Association. Closing thoughts you would have?
I think the take-home message for me, Mark, is that documentation is not going away. We see the industry trending more and more towards that, of verification throughout the entire production chain. Right now, it's source and age that are in the forefront, and it's not hard. I think that's continually the question we get from producers, and what they need to realize is they're already doing most of the work at the ranch. It's just take that final step, make the investment, and it is an investment, not a cost. Make that investment so that you have the opportunity to supply those value-added markets and reap the benefits when you get ready to sell.
Great.